The wedding gown designer's updated sketches had slipped quietly into my husband's inbox. A digital whisper of satin and lace awaiting approval, I opened his laptop. Its screen still cloaked in the stark, unadorned black he'd favored for years. Then, as though guided by some phantom hand, I nudged the brightness upward. A photograph materialized. There she was, Vanessa, his childhood companion. Pressed against a wall, cheeks flushed, gaze adrift in some private rapture. The lens hovered so near it seemed to breathe with her, and there, encircling the wrist that held the camera, was the very bracelet Jason had worn without fail for years. A silver chain that never left his skin. My eyes fell to the timestamp tucked in the corner, the year Vanessa left the country, the day before he asked me to marry him. Again and again I zoomed, my fingers trembling over the touchpad, hunting for seams, distortions, any sign of digital deceit, but the image held, merciless in its clarity, its truth. A coldness swept through me. Not a chill, but an arctic plunge that stole the warmth from my limbs. Nausea rose. Swift and bitter, I snapped the laptop shut, drew one sharp breath, then another, willing the world back into place. The door creaked open. Jason stood there, a cup of steaming milk in hand. His eyes drifted to where my palms still rested on the closed computer. "What are you looking at?" he asked, his tone light, almost careless. I steadied my voice, the wedding dress designs. He leaned in, let me take a look. I had the designer change a few things last time. I nodded, and trying to hide my trembling, opened the laptop again. The designer's email said the dress had been modified according to the last set of measurements and requirements, and asked when we'd be available for a fitting. I looked at the images, and the measurements in confusion. The long train had been replaced with a shortcut, and the measurements were way off from mine. I was about to reply and ask for clarification when Jason reached out to stop me. "No need to change it, just leave it as I frowned. "This isn't the version I asked for, and the size isn't mine either." Jason seemed indifferent. "Vanessa said she liked it better this way, so I had the designer adjusted to her style and measurements." I looked up sharply. "This is a wedding dress," he shrugged. Totally unbothered. "The wedding dress is still just a dress. Have the designer make you another one if you want." I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "This designer requires appointments a year in advance. You're going to be her sister-in-law. What's the big deal about giving her address?" "Don't be so petty." The screen dimmed again, reverting to the pitch-black wallpaper. The image I had just brightened was still vivid in my mind. My anger boiled over. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Jason, this is my wedding dress. The one I'm supposed to wear when I get married. Did you ever even ask me?" He sounded annoyed. "Didn't the wedding planning package include 2 free rentals? Just pick 2 and wear those." "You being unbelievable," I shouted. "Emily, seriously, who's being unreasonable here? It's just a dress. What difference does it make which one you wear?" I was shaking with rage. "If it doesn't matter, then why does Vanessa insist on wearing my dress?" He snatched the laptop from my hands and said coldly, "I'm done arguing with you. Calm down." Then turned and walked into the study, slamming the door shut behind him. Moments later, I heard the familiar chime of a WeChat video call. It was time for his daily chat with his friends. I sat frozen in place, listening to his laughter drifting out through the door while my head felt like it was about to explode. I stayed at my parents' house for a week, and during that week, Jason and I didn't speak at all. My parents kept trying to persuade me, saying I was about to get married and shouldn't make a fuss over something so minor. But this wasn't something minor, and I wasn't just making a fuss. She just didn't know how to explain it to them. Vanessa was the daughter of Jason's late mother's best friend. She was 6 years younger than him. Her father was a gambling addict who never took care of her, and she'd been passed around between relatives. Jason's mom had practically raised her like a second daughter and cherished her deeply. That week at home, I even started wondering if the photo I saw had been some kind of hallucination. The cold silence between us dragged on for another 3 days. Jason sent me a WeChat message. "You've made your point, stop pushing it. My mom's coming over for dinner tomorrow. She loves your cooking." His mother had always treated me well. I had no intention of taking this out on her. The next day, I watched the time and went out to buy groceries before heading back. Jason was already off work, and at the house when I arrived he gave me a glance, smirked, and said, "You realized you were overreacting," and came back as he spoke. He leaned over to kiss me. I instinctively dodged him. His smile dropped immediately. "My parents are coming soon. Don't act sour in front of them with that." He walked off. Dinner was decent. The mood at the table wasn't bad. His mom smiled warmly and said, "Soon our family will be complete." Vanessa's only 6 months from graduating and coming back. She seemed genuinely happy, reminiscing about stories from Vanessa's childhood. Jason listened attentively, a faint smile glued to his face the whole time. "Emily, once Vanessa's back, You two can go shopping together again. You two used to be so close, I couldn't even fake a smile. So I stuffed some food in my mouth to cover the awkwardness. I glanced up at Jason. He was nonchalantly placing food on his mom's plate. I suddenly asked, why did Vanessa go abroad in the first place? The room fell into an abrupt silence. His mom's smile stiffened slightly. Her hand pausing midair with the soup ladle, she quickly answered. She studies art, of course. She needed to go abroad to further her education. Jason's dad took a sip of wine, suddenly fascinated by the dishes in front of him. But didn't she already get accepted into the Central Academy of Fine Arts here? I stared straight into his mother's eyes, watching closely for any change in expression. She hesitated for a moment, then forced to laugh. Sure, CAFA is great, but the resources overseas are better if I remember right, I said calmly. Vanessa went to some third-rate university in Australia. Jason's expression darkened, his tone suddenly colder. Why are you asking all this? You don't even understand that field. Oh, nothing, just curious. I looked at the awkward, defensive expressions on all their faces, and a sinking feeling settled deep inside me after seeing his parents out. Jason surprisingly offered to help wash the dishes. Let's go look at more wedding dresses in a couple of days, he said. Pick a few styles. I looked at his back as he spoke like everything was normal. I didn't want to say anything. I was too emotionally drained. When I didn't respond, he wiped his hands and came over, trying to sound affectionate. Still mad? Come on. You know, guys don't understand all that stuff about dresses and custom fittings. My wife's beautiful no matter what she wears. You'd look good even in a potato sack. I didn't want to listen to his empty words anymore, so I gave a half-hearted response just to shut him up. Satisfied with that, he cheerfully went off to his study for his usual video chat. A few days later, he told me he wanted to redo the study. Said he thought we could stay at my parents' place for a while during the renovation. I blinked. Didn't we just finish decorating that room? Jason's tone was light. Just a few small changes. I'm turning the study into a bedroom. My brows furrowed. Turn the study into a bedroom? Then where will your study be? We'll share your room. That one can be Vanessa's room when she comes back. My mind went blank for a moment. The way he comes back to live here sounded like this home wasn't mine and his newlywed house, but just a place Vanessa would naturally move into. I instinctively pushed back. Why can't she stay at your parents' house? Jason's expression turned cold instantly. What do you mean, my parents' house? Aren't they your parents too? I stared into his eyes, hoping to find some kind of rational explanation, but there was nothing. Jason, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. This house is our marital home, ours. That's exactly why she can stay here, he said calmly, as if that were the most obvious thing in the world. Because it's our home. His tone was so unshakable, so free of doubt, that it left my throat dry. I couldn't say another word. Just as he wanted, the study began its second renovation. This time, he was unusually involved, almost obsessively so. Jason was now going to the renovation site almost every single day, personally supervising the work. He meticulously checked every tile, every scene, terrified that even the slightest flaw would remain. Back when we first renovated this house, I had to juggle my job and the construction, constantly running between the office and the site. I handled everything from communicating with the contractors to dealing with the building management's endless demands completely on my own. He barely showed up. The only time he made an appearance was for the final walkthrough, where he acted like some manager inspecting his team's work. This is the brand and color of the furniture, Vanessa Watts. He said, if you have time, go place the order. If you don't, I'll assume you're doing it on purpose. I didn't respond. I had already applied to go on a business trip to Hong Kong for an exhibition, which would take me away for half a month. It was my idea. I couldn't stand being at home and seeing Jason anymore. At first, Jason wasn't pleased, but when he heard I'd be in Hong Kong, he said I should focus on work and that he'd take time off and fly over to see me. He did fly over, but not to see me. My cab back to the hotel was stuck in rush hour traffic. Through the window, I saw a couple kissing on the sidewalk. I raised my phone and zoomed in to record the scene. The driver glanced at me and joked, "Young people these days, huh? They don't care who's watching." "Yeah," I replied, watching my screen. "They really don't." I zoomed in. It was Jason and Vanessa, who, by the way, was supposedly still in Australia. I turned to the driver. "Excuse me, which street is this?" "Jonquan South Road." He said, "Lots of out-of-towners rent places around here. If you're looking for a place, you might want to check it out, thanks." I replied. I opened WeChat and scrolled until I found Vanessa's. Her avatar was a white violet, the flower symbolism, "Let me love you silently." Her status message read, "If I can only love you from afar in this life, so be it love from afar, huh?" Her most recent post was just 2 words with a heart emoji. I sent Jason a message. "Where are you still coming to see me?" He replied quickly, "Been working late the past couple days. Boss won't approve time off, don't be mad. Babe, I'll make it up to you when you're back lying on my hotel bed." I kept watching the video I recorded on the street over and over again until I eventually fell asleep without realizing it the next morning. I borrowed the booth phone number from the exhibitor next to ours and called Jason's office. "Hello, could I speak to Mr. Jason Lee, please?" "Sorry, Mr. Lee's currently on leave." The receptionist replied, "Would you like me to connect you with one of his colleagues if it's urgent?" "No, that's all right, thank you." Every day after that, I would get off at Janquan South Road and sit in the cafe across from the street, phone camera recording every day, like clockwork. Jason and Vanessa appeared at that same intersection. Just like any ordinary couple, madly in love, or maybe more like husband and wife. The second day I returned to Beijing, Jason's mom called and invited me to dinner. When I opened the door to their home, Jason and Vanessa were curled up on the couch, playfully fighting over the remote. "Emily, there you are," Jason's mom called sweetly from the kitchen. "Vanessa and Jason are both here. We've just been waiting on you." I walked in slowly, glancing between the two of them on the couch. Vanessa flashed a smile, and Jason casually asked at Vanessa's school on break. I was curious to see what kind of lie they'd come up with. "No, she came back especially to help you with your wedding dress fitting," Jason's mom said, beaming. "Isn't that sweet?" "For whose dress fitting?" I asked, knowing the answer. "Mine, your sister-in-law's," Vanessa said proudly, having finally grabbed the remote. She leaned off Jason with asthmatic look on her face and those bright sparkly eyes staring at me. Nodded politely and said nothing. I turned and walked toward the kitchen. Reaching out to help Jason's mom prepare dinner, I picked up the vegetables on the counter. Slowly tearing leaves from the stems, I spoke casually. "Mom, has Jason always been this close with Vanessa?" She was stir-frying when she heard me. With a soft laugh full of fond memories, she replied, "They've been close since they were little. Vanessa used to be so timid she couldn't even sleep alone. She had to share a bed with her big brother." My hands paused mid-motion. The leaves I'd been picking dropped into the sink. "Is that so?" I tugged the corner of my mouth into a half-smile and asked, not quite joking, "Then why didn't you think about having Jason marry Vanessa instead?" Jason's mom froze for a second, clearly caught off guard, then chuckled like it was the most ridiculous idea. Her tone was casual, almost dismissive. "They grew up like brother and sister. How could they possibly get married?" I raised an eyebrow. "But they are not actual siblings, are they?" Her smile faltered a little and her tone lost some of its cheer. But she still answered without much hesitation, "Even if they're not blood-related, they were raised together. Their bond is no different than real siblings. There's no way they could be husband and wife." Then she lowered her voice, frowning slightly. "Besides, Vanessa's father, well, I've told you before, he's racked up gambling debt again. Word is he owes a fortune. Who knows when loan sharks might show up at his door. How could Weaver become in-laws with a family like that?" I looked at her quietly and let out a soft laugh. "So that's the reason." Jason's mom nodded, satisfied, and turned back to her cooking. I slowly lifted my head and looked toward the living room. Vanessa was sitting beside Jason, leaning slightly toward him, her eyes filled with amusement. As she gazed up at him, Jason was whispering something to her, his hand resting gently on hers, just like he used to do with Meth. He looked as natural together as an old married couple. On the way home, Jason talked about the renovation progress and suggested I go out and pick some cute home accessory stuff. "Girls, like he said." He turned to him. "Jason, don't you think you and Vanessa are a little too close?" Street lights outside cast flickering shadows across his face, making it hard to read his expression. "She's my sister," he said, as if it were obvious. "Are you seriously jealous of my own sister now?" His tone sounded helpless, almost indulgent. "God, you must really love me. She's still young," he continued. "It's normal for her to cling to me. Didn't she used to stick to you too?" The car entered a tunnel and a cold breeze whistled through a crack in the window, stinging my ears back. When Jason and I were interns at the same company, he was all passion and intensity. Everything he did was full of energy, especially when it came to love. During our dates, he'd often bring Vanessa along. She was just a bubbly high school girl, then sunny, cheerful, like a piece of candy. Eventually, most of our dates started to feel more like me and Vanessa hanging out with Jason trailing behind like our bodyguard. The year Jason and I got engaged, Vanessa started to grow quiet and reserved. Then out of nowhere, she left for Australia. Looking back, everything had been right there in front of me the whole time. That night, Jason got a call and told us Vanessa wasn't feeling well, so he needed to go check on her. The entire household was woken up by the noise he made rushing out. My mom looked at me, still in my pajamas, and asked, "Do you want to go to the hospital too? Emily, help with registration or grabbing her things?" Before I could answer, Jason cut in. "Oh, it's okay. Mom, let her get some rest. Vanessa just has a bit of an upset stomach and wants strawberry milk. I'll go pick some up for her." I shrugged at my mom and headed back to the bedroom as I listened to the sound of his car pulling out of the garage downstairs. I turned on Jason's laptop, my face reflected back at me from the cold black desktop background. I started going through his photos and videos. I thought it would take time to dig something up, but right next to the folder of our couple photos was another one labeled Others. It wasn't hidden. Not even password protected. I clicked on it. Every thumbnail was black. The oldest file dated back to the second year we started dating, the newest just last month, when I was away on my business trip. So much for loyalty. My future husband sure had his own kind of long-term commitment. The next day, Jason came by to take the... He told me he'd be staying at his family's place for a while. It would be easier to take care of them that way, you understand? He said maybe he was feeling guilty. And maybe it was just more lies, but Jason said he had a surprise planned for me. Good, I had a surprise for him. The waiter pushed open the door and Jason walked into the private room, holding a cake. The words "Happy 5th Anniversary" were written across the top, an elegant, flowing script like they were meant to be etched into some tender, romantic memory. Smiling, he lit the candles and raised his glass. "Emily, to us." I lifted my glass and gently clinked it against Histo, the end of us. The crisp sound of glass, hidden glass, froze in the air. Jason's smile faltered slightly, as if he didn't quite catch what I said. "Let's break up," I said. His expression shifted immediately. He furrowed his brows and stared at me. "What's going on with you today?" I said. "Let's break up." "We're done." I met his eyes, repeating each word slowly and clearly. Jason's face darkened. He tried to hold back his anger. "Emily, stop it. The wedding plans are all set. The dress can still be altered and the reception can be cancelled." I cut in calmly. He looked stunned, like he finally understood. "So this is about the dress? Just over that one damn dress, Emily? There has to be a limit to your drama." Watching his frustrated face, I felt strangely calm. "Exactly, there has to be a limit." I pulled out a thick stack of printed photos and spread them out across the table one by one. This is the limit." It was a heavy pile, images of tangled bodies in cars and hotel rooms, on balconies. Him, Vanessa. His hand started shaking as he scrambled to grab the photos, as if trying to gather up spilled secrets. His voice came out choked. How did you?" "Don't rush," I said coolly. "It's fine. If you lose them, I've got plenty more." He looked completely disoriented, breathing unevenly like someone drunk and out of control. His eyes were red, lips trembling. He stuffed the photos into his jacket with trembling hands, as if hiding them could make them vanish. I looked him straight in the eye and said with measured calm, "It's over. Do you have a problem with that?" He opened his mouth, his Adam's apple bobbing, lips parting again and again, but no sound came out. I stood up, took my coat, and looked once at the cake on the table. The candles flickered, casting tiny shadows. "Happy 5th Anniversary. Perfect timing." Arms crossed, I stood outside my office building and looked at the two of them, Jason and Vanessa, standing just a few feet away. Jason looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. Clearly, things hadn't been going well for him. Vanessa, on the other hand, still had that soft, delicate look, her head bowed slightly like she was the innocent victim in all this. "Emily, can we talk?" Jason's voice was hoarse with a note of pleading. I glanced at him, my tone cold. "What's left to talk about between us?" He took a deep breath and turned toward Vanessa. "Say what you need to say." Vanessa lifted her head, something complicated flickering in her eyes. She bit her lip and began speaking with a trembling voice. "Emily, I'm sorry. I was the one who seduced Jason. It's all my fault. I love him too much. I really do. I couldn't help it." She lowered her gaze, her voice soft but tinged with a strange kind of pride. But he really does love you. Even when we were together, he was still helping you. He always thought of you." Every word she said felt like a fine, sharp blade dripping with pity, yet deliberately highlighting the intimacy between them. I looked at her quietly, a slow smile tugging at my lips like I just heard the most absurd joke. "So what you're saying, Isovan, while he was sleeping with you, his heart was still with me. Am I supposed to be moved to tears now?" I asked, my tone light, but my eyes steady. Vanessa's expression shifted slightly. She glanced at Jason before continuing. "He really does love you. If you don't like me, I won't stay at your place. You can have the wedding dress. I don't want anything." I let out a quiet, scornful laugh. "And after that, will you go back to loving him from afar again? That doesn't make you feel the least bit pathetic?" Her face paled, but she didn't respond. "Sorry, but just the thought of you silently pining for him makes me sick," I said flatly. "All those years with that same profile picture and status message. I finally understand what they meant. Took me long enough." I looked directly at her, letting a small, cold smile curl at the corner of my lips. Vanessa, did you really think those sneaky little feelings of yours could stay hidden forever? Her eyes widened for a second, but she quickly forced herself to stay composed. I don't know what you're talking about. I shook my head slowly. You want me gone even more than Jason does. Want to know why? I let my gaze sweep casually across her face. Because you want Jason to marry me on the surface, keep his mother satisfied. While the two of you keep things going. In the background, her pupils contracted slightly and she lowered her voice. You're making— Oh, I let out a cold laugh word for word. I'll say it. Do you know what's truly disgusting about you? I leaned in a little, my voice low and precise. Plenty of people cheat, sure, but not many have the nerve to want it both ways. Stealing someone's partner in private while expecting that person to protect your public image. Shut up, Jason snapped. Standing abruptly, his face, flushed moments ago, had turned pale. Struck a nerve, didn't I? I watched his fingers tremble slightly. I'm not done, I said, voice calm. But cutting. Vanessa's eyes flickered with panic. She clenched her teeth. I am not going to marry Jason, so what are you worried about? I raised an eyebrow. Worried? I gave a humorless smile. You've misunderstood me. I don't care about you two at all enough, Jason shouted suddenly. His face had gone completely dark. Vanessa, what the hell are you even saying? Vanessa shrank back, startled, her whole body flinching as tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just— Enough. He cut her off, clearly irritated, then turned his gaze back to me. His eyes were filled with desperate sincerity. Emily, I had the designer to her change your wedding dress back to the original style. I've asked them to restore the study. Two, she won't come between us again. Please come back. And then what? I asked with a raised brow, my voice indifferent. You want me to forgive you? He swallowed hard, trying to speak, but I wasn't interested in listening anymore. I stepped closer, looking him straight in the eye. Jason, when you set that photo as your desktop background, did it ever cross your mind we'd end up here? His lips trembled slightly, like he wanted to say something, but under my stare, he fell completely silent for a few moments. No one spoke. There's no need to see each other again, I said quietly, and don't bother with all these meaningless attempts to fix it. Jason's eyes glistened slightly with rage. Turned to Vanessa. My voice was cold. Instead of wasting your time on me, maybe go talk to Jason's mother. As long as she agrees, you can stop pretending. Vanessa's face changed. Something complicated flickered in her eyes. She bit her lip and murmured, she raised me like a daughter, but she'd never agree to me marrying Jason. Jason's mother's thoughts worked hard to guess. Vanessa was the daughter of a gambling addict. She'd been raised by the woman who now saw her as family. For someone like her to marry into the family would feel like betrayal, not gratitude. With Jason married to me, his mother could feel secure. Vanessa could have what she wanted behind closed doors. Too bad I wouldn't play that role. Jason and I, there was nothing left between us. You two can get married, break up, cheat, fight. I don't care. Just don't come back here and disgust me anymore. I didn't bother looking at them again. I turned and walked away. People who can't see the truth will only drag themselves deeper into the mud. Our date to register the marriage had been set for a week before the wedding. Looking back now, I'm so thankful we never made it that far. Everything I had once moved into our shared home like my love. Piece by piece, I packed it all up and returned it to Jason. I deleted the reminders in my phone, then arranged to meet him one last time to finalize the house transfer and tie up the remaining loose ends. He agreed right away. But when we met, he didn't mention a single practical matter. Instead, he stared at me, face worn out and eyes heavy. Emily, I really know I was wrong. Then stop wasting time. I cut him off flatly. Let's get it over with. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. Then, like he couldn't hold back anymore, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. It wasn't me who started it, I swear. I was just confused. Emily, the only person I've ever wanted, ever made the first move toward is you. Remember back when we were interns? At least back then, I was someone who took responsibility. I yanked my arm free. My voice was cold. Do you really think this was just a simple affair? He froze, clearly not expecting that I let out a soft, bitter laugh. My tone calm but laced with irony. You knew perfectly well you could never marry her and you still slept with her. That's what this is, isn't it? His breathing turned uneven. He opened his mouth, voice raspy. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked with a quiet scoff. You enjoyed everything guilt-free for years, didn't you? In your mind, anything Vanessa gave you was just something she owed because your family raised her. I narrowed my eyes, a mocking smile pulling at my lips. So you slept with her and didn't feel the least bit guilty. In fact, you probably thought after we got married you could keep sneaking around. That's what all that effort remodeling the study was about, right? You really thought I wouldn't notice? His throat worked again, lips trembling, but he couldn't get a single word out. Let me put it even clearer, I said with a dry laugh. voice sharp as a blade. "You're rotten inside," and out his eyes flickered like something in him had just snapped awake. His voice was hoarse. "Emily, please don't look at me like that." "What?" I narrowed my eyes. "Is it painful to finally see what kind of man you really are?" He reached out as if to touch me, but the moment our eyes met, his hand froze. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke in a low, desperate voice. "Can't you give me one more chance?" I only smiled. I didn't bother answering the paperwork, went through quickly. The documents would be handled by the agency and mailed directly to my home. As I turned to leave, Jason grabbed my arm again, his eyes full of reluctance and sorrow. I yanked myself free, then swung my bag and slammed it hard into his head. I'd wanted to do that for a long time. While he clutched his head in stunned silence, I walked away without looking back. There would be no more reason to see each other again in TV dramas. Hitting the small one always brings out the big one. Reality is no different. As I stepped through the front door with my bag, I instantly sensed the shift in the room's energy. My parents were sitting stiffly on the couch, faces grim. Across from them sat Jason's mother, Jo Wellen. Her expression was carefully composed with just the right balance of sorrow and concern, as if she genuinely regretted how things had turned out between Jason and me. When she saw me enter, she immediately smiled warmly. "Emily, you're home." I glanced at her, lips curving into a cold, faint smile. "Mrs. Jo, what brings you here so late?" "What else could it be?" my mother said with a frown. "Aunt Wellen is here to talk to us about your marriage." "Marriage?" I let out a quiet laugh, sat down my bag and looked at my parents' conflicted expressions. I already had a pretty good idea what was coming. Jo Wellen sighed and looked at me with gentle, maternal eyes. "Emily, Auntie's here to talk some sense into you. You and Jason have been together for so many years. Are you really going to throw it all away over a moment of anger? What you two have isn't something just anyone can replace." I didn't respond, offering no agreement, no denial. She continued, "Both your parents and I are really worried. Emily, we're just hoping for the best for you. Marriage isn't child's play. You and Jason love each other. Anyone can see that. It's normal for young couples to have arguments, but you shouldn't let emotions cloud your judgment. Don't make a decision you'll regret letting emotions cloud my judgment." I gave a bitter little laugh. That's an awfully convenient way to put it. A flicker of displeasure passed over Jo Whelan's face, but she quickly composed herself and kept her voice warm. "Emily, for a woman, nothing is more important than family and marriage. It hasn't been easy for you and Jason to come this far. As the one who suits you best. If you walk away from him now, you'll definitely regret it someday." Regret? My smile deepened, sharper this time. "Auntie, the only thing I regret is not seeing the truth sooner." Still, she wouldn't give up. "Emily, life isn't black and white. Men make mistakes sometimes, but as long as his heart is still with you, isn't that enough?" I raised an eyebrow. "So you're saying as long as he loves me, I should just pretend nothing ever happened?" Sensing the rising tension, my mom quickly stepped in. "Emily, your Aunt Zhao isn't completely wrong. You and Jason have been together for so long. Love like that can't be cut off so easily." I stared at my mother in disbelief. "Do you even know what he did?" Her expression faltered. Jo Wellen's words had clearly shaken her. She sighed and said softly, "I know he hurt you, but still, after all these years." Jillian saw her chance and pressed on. "Exactly, Emily. I know Jason made a terrible mistake, but he's been beside himself with regret. He drinks all the time now. Hasn't even gone to work in days. Are you really going to be this heartless?" I chuckled under my breath and looked at her with feigned innocence. "If you really care about him, Auntie, maybe you should help him and Vanessa be together. Let the two lovebirds have their happy ending." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Her face changed instantly and her voice rose sharply. "Jason would never have feelings for Vanessa. He doesn't love her. Ali already made him kick her out." She said it with certainty, like it was something to be proud of, but all it did was confirm for me once again just how thoroughly Jason was rotten to the core. I smiled faintly, tone light. "Oh, you made him kick her out yourself? That's a real shame." Then Jo Whelan's brows knitted together. "A shame? What do you mean?" I slowly took a folder out of my bag and slid it across the coffee table toward her. "If you're so sure Vanessa has no place in your family, then you'd better take this seriously. After all, she's not just your would-be daughter-in-law, she's the mother of your grandson. What nonsense is this?" She snapped, reaching for the folder. I gave her a glance and added casually, "Vanessa had a healthy baby boy while she was in Australia." Her hand froze mid-air. Her face went completely white. I leaned back into the sofa, voice calm and deliberate. "Back then, he thought sending her to Australia would make the problem disappear. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Too bad she found out she was pregnant after arriving. She barely spent any time at school. Used her tuition money to pay a family to foster the baby. Then flew back to Hong Kong and picked up her long-distance affair with Jason like nothing ever happened. Jo Welland's hands trembled violently as she flipped open the folder the moment she saw what was inside. Her complexion turned deathly pale after I started suspecting why Vanessa had really gone to Australia. I asked a friend to investigate, and sure enough, they found everything ChatGPT to annoy. When Vanessa arrived in Australia for school, she was already pregnant later. She gave birth there, dropped out, and returned to China. The baby was left in the care of a local Chinese. The documents I handed over clearly recorded her hospital admission and even included photos of her holding the newborn. My mother's hand began to tremble as she looked at Jo Welland. Wide-eyed in disbelief, I asterisk this true. Jo Welland's face turned ashen, judging by her reaction. She genuinely hadn't known about the child either. I offered her a smile, calm and cutting. Congratulations. Auntie Joyve always doted on Vanessa, and now look. You get to be both a grandma and a nana. Her hands balled into fists as her breath hitched after several seconds of stunned silence. She made one last attempt to deny it. This child has nothing to do with Jason. It's Vanessa's issue alone. You know what kind of girl she is after all. You raised her if you're really that unsure, I said coolly. You can always get a paternity test. Her expression crumbled completely. My father suddenly slammed a hand on the table and shouted, "This is outrageous." My mother was shaking so hard her voice trembled. Welland, you knew about this all along. Jo Welland opened her mouth but struggled for words. At last she said weakly, "I'd already told the family that Jason and Emily were getting married." I looked at her calmly. "So what? You lost a daughter-in-law. Just say it was fate, but if your reputation takes a hit, that's on you. You can leave now, don't come back." Her breath quickened, chest heaving with rage or shame. But she said nothing more. She turned and left in silence. My mother slumped down on the couch, pale as a sheet, murmuring, "My God." My father sat quietly for a long while, then finally let out a heavy sigh. "Emily, I'm sorry you had to go through this. At least it's not too late. Mom, Dad, don't let yourselves be soft-hearted ever again," I said, leaning back into the sofa and closing my eyes. I felt the relief of a burden finally lifted from my shoulders. My mother stayed seated for a long time, lost in thought. My father lit a cigarette, staring at nothing, still processing everything that had just happened after that day. No one from Jason's family ever came to our home again. Jason, though, wasn't so quick to give up in the beginning. He called and messaged me non-stop, practically chasing me around the clock. I blocked him everywhere without a second thought. He tried reaching me through mutual friends, even through family, but I rejected every attempt with the same cold distance. Once he even waited outside my office building when he saw me. His eyes were full of remorse. "Emily, do you really have to be so heartless?" he asked. "You can cry to someone else," I replied, my voice calm, detached. "Don't waste my time. We're strangers now." He clearly hadn't expected that kind of indifference from me. His eyes dimmed with despair. "Emily, we've been together for so many years. Don't disgust me." I cut him off, tones steady and cold. Then I walked past him without another glance. As time went on, his desperate messages and appearances dwindled. Eventually, he vanished from my life entirely. In the end, fate is rarely kind to those who bring their downfall upon themselves. Sometimes my mom would mention bits and pieces. She'd heard about the chaos in the Lee family, and each time I'd feel a fresh chill run through me. After Vanessa was kicked out, her cousin Jingio went to pick up the baby. He showed up at the Lee's doorstep waving the paternity test, demanding Jason take responsibility. Jo Welland absolutely refused to acknowledge it. Jason played dumb, denying everything. Vanessa, with nowhere to go, took the baby and returned to her family home. And when her gambling addict father found out, he went straight to Jason to ask for money. Jason refused to give him any money. Enraged and humiliated, Vanessa's gambling addict father pulled a knife and stabbed him because Jason didn't receive treatment in time. The injury left him infertile. Faced with the situation, Jo Welland had no choice but to reluctantly agree to let Vanessa marry Jason. But the chaos didn't end there. Every month, Vanessa's father would show up at the Lee's home dragging a gang of debt collectors with him. If they didn't get money, they'd smash things, block the entrance, cause scenes, even scream in front of the neighbors. Before long, everyone in the building knew about the Lee's disgrace. Someone who knew Jo Welland told us that eventually she couldn't take it anymore. In the end, she gritted her teeth and sold the house. She and her husband packed up and left in a hurry, relocating to some third-tier city. After that, they disappeared completely. No one heard from